How do you stay out of the shame triangle? We have seen in the last couple of videos how destructive the triangle can be to the people that we love, how destructive it can be for our relationship with them. And since it is so destructive, how do we stay away from it? Well, fortunately, there is one simple skill that if you practice this over and over again and just make it part of your repertoire of how you relate, it will keep you out of the shame triangle. Hi everybody, I'm Greg from Heart Tools, where we make it simple to build great relationships. And the shame triangle is one of the most pervasive and destructive forces in relationships in our culture. And there's one simple step that you can practice that will keep you out of this destructive force. And it's this. Whenever you notice a problem, instead of allowing your mind to take off, because that's what happens, our mind just kind of takes off and we start thinking about how big is this problem, what are all the bad things that are going to happen if this problem doesn't get solved, what resources are available to solve the problem, who can we enlist to solve the problem, what strategies can we use, right? The mind, and there's so much emotional and mental energy expended right away as soon as you notice a problem. Instead of doing that, teach yourself whenever you notice a problem to stop and ask yourself this simple question: whose problem is it? And there are 4 different answers to the question of whose problem is it. The first is, it's not my problem. It's somebody else's problem. The second is, it is my problem. I completely own that problem. The third answer is, it's our problem, right? And so I'm in a relationship and we have a problem we have to solve together. And so in my marriage, we have to figure out how we're going to spend our money. We have to figure out how we're going to parent our kids. If I'm in a work team, we own the problem of completing this project. And so some problems are our problems. And we have to learn how to negotiate that. And then the fourth answer is, there's no problem. A lot of times when we live in the triangle, everything becomes a problem because the only way we relate is in the triangle. And so sometimes we discover there is no problem. For example, if we decide we want to do a family reunion and Johnny's not going to come to the family reunion because Johnny has Super Bowl tickets and it's been his dream to go to the Super Bowl, and we ask, well, what's the problem here? There's no problem, right? Johnny's just making a different choice. And we don't have to spend a lot of emotional and mental energy solving a problem that doesn't exist. And so the first question we ask ourselves is, whose problem is this? Before we start spending a lot of emotional and mental energy on the problem, we just ask ourselves, whose problem is this? And one of the reasons we do that is because, as we saw in the last couple of videos, the problem will not get solved until the person who owns the problem solves the problem. That's when the problem goes away. Otherwise, it just continues, and it continues using up more time and energy and resources. But there's even a deeper reason why we ask, whose problem is this? Because as we looked at the staircase, is the problems I have right now are the problems I need to have right now. And it's because as we looked at the staircase, we saw that problems are not the obstacles to success in life. Problems are actually the stepping stone to success in life, because each time I solve a problem, it stays solved and I get stronger, I develop more capacity. And so the problems that I have are stepping stones to me becoming a successful person. And as we think about problems in this way, that the problems that I have are the problems that I need to have, the problems you have are the problems you need to have, the problems my children have are problems they need to have in order to grow and succeed in life, we'll find there are 3 different kinds of problems that we can notice. The first kind of problem is just, I call this the life is hard problem, right? Life is hard. Cars break down. That's just the way life works, right? Printers run out of ink on a regular basis. Pipes leak. We get sick. There are problems that are just part of the fact that life is challenging, life is hard, And I need to be able to cope with those problems so that I can live in the real world and function as an adult. So that's the first kind of problem. There's just, life is hard, and so problems happen, and that's the universe that I need to learn to live in. The second kind of problems that we have are problems that are symptoms of deeper issues or deeper problems. Things like addictions and compulsions that we have, we really focus in on that's the problem, but they're really symptoms of deeper problems going on. And if you haven't seen our video on finding freedom, I would invite you to watch that. It's a really helpful way to understand, and what we do is we break down, there's actually 4 levels of things going on. And what's happening up here on the addictive or compulsive level is simply a symptom of other things going on. And so if we keep rescuing people at from the consequences of their addictive or compulsive behaviors, we rob them of the opportunity of discovering what's really going on in my life down here. What are the real problems that are contributing to that I need to solve? And so those are problems that we need to have if we have those problems. And solving those problems will be the best thing that we can do to have success in life. And then the third kind of problem that we can experience, and we don't want to rob others of the opportunity to solve and grow through these problems, are problems that set us up for having unique calling and purpose in life. We've all been impacted by people who went through some pretty horrible things in life, or things they didn't want to go to, and they have turned that into a life of service for other people and a real life of meaning. Perhaps you have had this experience. I've had this experience in my life. It's like this Karate Kid moment. Remember where he's, waxing the car and sanding the deck and painting the fence, and all of a sudden he realizes he's learned karate. And we've had this experience where we've gone through 15 or 20 years of things that, man, I hate those problems. I'd never want to go through those problems again. But all of a sudden now I realize what I'm doing now that has so much meaning to me is because I went through those problems and solved those problems, and I would not be able to do this, and I would not be good at what I'm good at now if I hadn't solved those problems. And so we don't want to rob people of the opportunity to experience and solve those problems. And by the way, when someone is going through a problem, you don't want to talk about the meaning of the problem there. That's something that I will discover on my own. If someone's going through a really horrible thing and we say, oh, God's going to use that someday, what we're doing there is we're just trying to fix their feelings, and it really invalidates the pain of the experience that they're going through. So don't use that as as a manipulative tool when people are going through a problem, but it is something that is not uncommon in the human experience, that we derive a lot of meaning and purpose and value in serving others because of the unique problems that we have overcome in our life. So in upcoming videos, we will talk about what to do if it's not your problem and you're used to kind of solving problems, because there are ways you can be helpful without taking ownership of someone else's problems. What to do if it's our problem, because that can be tricky to negotiate. But for this video, here's what I want you to practice, and this is enough, and this one thing will be life-changing for you if you practice this every day, and that is every time a problem comes up, ask yourself this simple question: whose problem is this? And go through that practice of figuring out who owns the problem, because if they own the problem, they need the problem, and if you take it from them, you are going to keep them from having an opportunity to grow and succeed. So practice that simple step. Simple steps, practice, practice, practice. That's what Heart Tools is all about.